In today's video, we're going to be taking a very different approach here. We're going to be taking a look at the Pacific jet stream, which is really the driving force behind the upcoming pattern. We're going to take a look at that atmospheric river that is coming onshore to the west and really leading towards above normal temperatures for the entire United States for at least a few days here. Also looking at major snowfall out west and potentially a major snowstorm in the northeast. Let's just go ahead and dive into things, and we are taking a look at that jet stream. I know this is a little bit confusing, a little bit boring. I'm going to explain this for just a moment, and then we're going to dive into the precipitation type, snowfall, and total precipitation, rest assured. Let's dive into it, and this is that Pacific jet. It's been called the atmospheric river recently because it's just driving major storms onshore to the west. But not only that, there's a lot of mild temperatures out there in the middle of the Pacific over the ocean, similarly to the Atlantic, except for the fact that the Pacific moves onshore to the United States, and obviously the air that's moving over the Atlantic moves away from the United States, and that is why the Pacific gives so much more impactful weather to the United States overall, outside of hurricanes, of course. But as far as overall temperatures and precipitation patterns, the Pacific has a much greater impact on all of it. And when this speeds up and becomes a lot more intense and moves into the United States, it can bring with it very mild but very moist conditions for the United States. We've seen this happen in years past, and we're moving into a pattern that looks to last at least a week here, maybe even more. So let's dive into it. First off, we're taking a look at today. I want to move past this, though, and we see that Pacific jet continues to impact the western states and even the east at times. It's as we move towards around the end of the month, we still see it coming on shore, but I want you to watch this very closely because the end of it could be in sight. Not for sure, but there is a sign that it could be ending. A trough looks to dig down straight from Alaska, western Canada, and eventually move into the western United States. And this is going to shove this Pacific jet and make it dip way below the United States. And this could spell an end to that Pacific pattern, better yet, over the United States. It could divert all of that energy further south, which is usually how things go. So watch it closely. We see it dip further and further south to where it's going into Mexico as opposed to the United States. And I think this beginning time frame of February could spell the end of this really strong Pacific jet diving straight into the United States. I think it's going to dip below us and bring an end of this extreme pattern that we've been stuck in. So let's dive through things really quickly. I want to show you the impacts on the temperature anomalies that this is bringing, and you can see it's really torchy from west coast to east coast. We've been expecting this pattern for a couple of weeks now, and it's finally here. It expects to last all the way through, for the most part, the end of January. As you can see, the further east you are, the less impact this has on you because it's further away. So, of course, as this air moves over the United States, it loses some of its potency. And we actually managed to get some pretty decently cold temperatures along the eastern seaboard, hence why we have a potential major snowstorm that we're talking about later on in this video. But for the west and central United States, at least, it looks to be very torchy here for at least a week or so. Over time, we're going to see these warmer temperatures continue all the way through the beginning of February, but here comes that trough. As you can see, for the western states, it's going to divert this jet stream underneath the United States, and we should see an overall cooling trend out west here after this February 3rd timeframe. So let's keep going with it, and look at that. We really cool down out west, and we actually cool down even more for the east. We have a little bit of a warm air mass over the northern plains and Great Lakes by this time frame, but nothing too substantial as far as how widespread it is. It's pretty intense, but it's a pretty isolated area here. And this is at the end of the first week of February. So definitely appears like there is an end in sight for this major jet stream pattern that is forcing warm, more moist air into the United States. Definitely the end is in sight. Let's talk about those western impacts because flooding is a massive concern. Anywhere in the grays is under 1/10 of an inch. Greens are 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Blues are 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows are 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds are 2 to 5 inches, which we see for the entire western seaboard. Your grayish browns there, mostly browns in my opinion, but it's very close, appear to be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation, which is encompassing the entire northwestern seaboard there, as you can see, up and down the northern coast of California, Oregon's coast, and Washington's coast, expecting 5 to 10 inches of precipitation over the next 15 days. And even in those blues that we see scattered about the kind of western seaboard here, that is going to be 10 to 15 inches of precipitation, which is obviously a staggering number to even think about. Flooding, landslides, All of that is going to be a major concern here. Also, snowfall for your mountainous west is going to be a big factor as we have these storms driving onshore. Despite the above normal temperatures, as you can imagine, the Rockies, Cascades, Sierra Nevadas, all of these mountain ranges, their temperatures average extremely low. So even in these above normal temperature patterns, you're still well below freezing for these mountaintop locations, which basically in turn means that the only impact they're really receiving from all of this is the above average precipitation, which for them spells well above average snowfall. Anywhere in the grays is the dusting. If anything, blues are 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, purples are 6 to 10, pinks are 10 to 20, your pastel blues are going to be 20 to 30 inches of snowfall, and we even see pastel pinks there for the Sierra Nevadas and portions of the Cascades, which is going to be 30 inches plus over the next 15 days. Clearly a very substantial difference from what's typical, and really staggering amounts of snowfall here expected out west due to this very strong Pacific jet stream. Let's dive into our typical stuff that we talk about in our video. This is going to go for the entire United States, and we really see, again, storms out west. I mean, note these storms, they're going to be really abundant here over the coming pattern. Also, we get this Gulf energy moving up into the eastern states, as we've mentioned over the past few days and even maybe over the past week. We see that really blowing up here by the time we're reaching Wednesday the 24th into Thursday the 25th. It's still around for the eastern states. Keep in mind, we're going to be in the mid 60s all the way to the mid 70s depending on where you're at. So enjoy that nice weather if it's not raining, because it's certainly going to be very, very warm, unseasonably warm, and in all likelihood we won't see temperatures this warm until maybe March or April. So definitely get out there and enjoy it, because it's going to be a while before we get back into this very, very nice pattern. We continue to see snowstorms hammering the west here by the time we're reaching Thursday into Friday. Again, another one moving in for Friday into Saturday, still seeing those storms over the east, but now we're anticipating that northeast winter storm. We still have the very warm Pacific temperatures here over the west, but we do manage to get a little bit of a miniature trough here, and this is going to continue its way eastward. Meanwhile, we have a lot of low pressure here in the southeast. So as this cold air takes aim at the east, so is this low pressure. We're going to see a storm come together, and likely that's going to spell snowfall. So let's take a look at it as we're reaching very late into Saturday, very early on Sunday here, so 27th into the 28th. We see this low pressure system beginning to move offshore of the mid-Atlantic as it's located right around the Delmarva. We see heavy snowfall persisting for Ohio into Pennsylvania, New York, and even into New England. Definitely looks like a potential heavier snow system. This moves offshore, which, as you know, means it's going to likely intensify. We see it lowering all the way down to a 997 millibar low pressure center offshore of New Jersey, bringing heavier snowfall all the way from the mountains of Kentucky, West Virginia, up through Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and even into New England. I can't stress this enough, but this does appear to be very, very heavy snowfall, so keep that in mind as well, as this low pressure system is relatively strong as a 995. All the way by the time we're reaching Sunday evening here on the 28th, we're still seeing heavy snowfall for New York and the rest of New England there. Definitely looks to be an intense system. We have a pretty healthy trough. Again, it's nothing too major as far as how severe the cold air is, but it's just enough to bring us below freezing and give us pretty widespread snowfall here, and quite a bit of it, to say the least. As we move past this point, though, it becomes pretty clear that that's going to be a one-time event. We don't see any other real snowfall threats in the east at any point before February 2nd here, which is the end of this model run. However, we do get another very powerful western storm system here by the time we're reaching the 1st into the 2nd of February, which looks to tack on even more snowfall into these areas. Remember, we expect that strong jet stream pattern to end around the 2nd through the 4th time frame, perhaps, of February, and that hasn't even happened yet by this point. So we're still seeing that be a very, very crucial factor into the upcoming pattern, even by the end of this European model run. Looks to potentially last a week to even 14 days here, that overall Pacific jet pattern. So definitely going to be a big part of the upcoming weather ahead. Let's take a look here at the total precipitation, and no surprise, I mean, we already talked about it, but heavy amounts of precipitation for the western seaboard. Flooding risk, landslide risk, and heavy snowfall for those mountain regions. Definitely be careful out there, as this is extreme for the west. And definitely going to see a lot here for the east as well, where flooding is a concern as well, and even some snowfall, as we mentioned, in the northeast, which we'll dive into in just a moment. But this is all due to that Pacific jet allowing for a ridge to really take place here. as we see this strong jet moving through. It's going to cause a rising motion from the Gulf of Mexico into the east here, which causes a plethora of storminess here for the eastern third of the nation, leading to above average precipitation. Total snowfall here, again, tons out west. We already talked about that a ton, so let's dive into the east. We'll actually go ahead and zoom in here. I think it's going to be helpful. We might even zoom in even further here. Forgive me. But we can see that there is tons of snowfall expected. Heavier amounts in the terms of 2 to 4 inches perhaps for eastern Ohio, even regions here of the mountainous Appalachian Mountains for Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland here. Maybe even closer to 10 inches there for some mountainous regions in West Virginia. But as far as the overall snowstorm is concerned in the heart of it, we see all the way from northern Pennsylvania in the Finger Lakes regions of New York into the Catskills, Adirondacks, even the Green Mountains of Vermont, White Mountains of New Hampshire, these Berkshires down there in Massachusetts. There's very hilly areas down here in southern New Hampshire and north central Massachusetts as well. And then as we know, Maine always does well as far as snowfall, so I think that goes without saying. But we're looking at a potential 10-inch plus bullseye all of a sudden with this snowstorm for these northeast areas. Could this be a little bit on the high end? For sure. It could, especially as we're in a very, very odd pattern. But definitely it's interesting to see these models trending at heavier amounts, and it's certainly going to be something I'm watching here on the channel as day after day, model run after model run, these models seem to be increasing the amounts that they're projecting for this storm. So we could be on the doorstep of something pretty major here. Again, the grays are dusting, if anything. Blues are 2 to 6 inches. Purples are 6 to 10. And then your pinks are 10 to 20, which we do actually get awfully close to 20 inches here near those Finger Lakes regions of New York. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this very long and detailed video here of the upcoming pattern. Be sure to subscribe for daily weather videos just like this one. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.